The massive space station Nexus Prime hung in the dark void like a glowing city. Its metal walls stretched for miles in every direction, housing the most powerful beings in the galaxy. Inside the main council chamber, representatives from dozens of alien species gathered around a circular table that could seat 500 delegates. Admiral Zakthul stood at the center of the room. His purple skin gleamed under the bright lights and his four arms gestured dramatically as he spoke. The Vorthan Empire had ruled this part of space for over 1,000 years, and Zakthul commanded their most feared battle fleet. Fellow council members, his voice boomed through the chamber. We face a new threat to our territorial dispute in the Kepler 442 system. The other aliens leaned forward in their seats. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others looked like walking crystals or giant insects. All of them controlled vast fleets of warships and entire star systems. Zakthul pressed a button on his control panel. A large holographic display appeared above the table, showing a star map of the contested region. Red dots marked Vorthan ships, while blue dots showed the positions of their enemies, the crystalline hegemony. Long-range sensors have detected an unknown fleet approaching our conflict zone, Zakthul continued. Intelligence reports suggest this fleet consists of only 12 vessels. A ripple of laughter swept through the chamber. Commander Veltar of the crystalline hegemony rose from his seat. His body looked like living diamond, refracting light in rainbow patterns as he moved. 12 ships? Veltar's voice sounded like breaking glass. Admiral, surely you jest. My patrol squadrons consist of more vessels than that. Are we to fear a merchant convoy that has lost its way? More laughter filled the room. The delegates found it amusing that anyone would interrupt their important business over such a trivial matter. The Vorthan Empire and crystalline hegemony had been locked in a bitter standoff over the Kepler 442 system for 8 months. Each side had committed hundreds of massive warships to the conflict. Zakthul's expression remained serious. The origin of this fleet remains unknown. Our deep space monitors cannot identify their technology or determine their intentions. Perhaps they are refugees, suggested Ambassador Clixtall from the Insectoid Collective. Her mandibles clicked together as she spoke. Many species flee to uninhabited systems when their worlds are threatened. Or pirates, added General Morgak of the Beast Clans. His massive frame made the reinforced chair creak under his weight. Small raider fleets often prey on shipping lanes during major conflicts. Veltar waved one of his crystal arms dismissively. Whatever this tiny flotilla might be, it poses no threat to our operations. My battlecruisers outweigh their entire fleet by factors of hundreds. A single one of my dreadnoughts could obliterate them without slowing down. The alien delegates nodded in agreement. In their experience, space warfare was about size and firepower. The largest ships with the most powerful energy weapons always won. A fleet of only 12 vessels could barely threaten a space station, let alone influence a major military campaign. Unknown to the Galactic Council, the approaching fleet belonged to humanity. The 12 ships traveled through hyperspace at maximum speed, their crews preparing for their first major test among the stars. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the USS Liberty, studying tactical displays on the screens around him. The Liberty was humanity's newest heavy cruiser, but it measured only 800 feet from bow to stern. By galactic standards, it was hardly larger than a shuttlecraft. Morrison was 42 years old, with graying hair at his temples and calm blue eyes that missed nothing. He had served in Earth's Navy for 20 years, fighting pirates in the asteroid belt and defending colonies from raiders. This mission would be different. For the first time, humans would face alien warships in battle. "Captain," called Lieutenant Sandra Mills from the communications station. "Incoming message from Earth Command." Morrison nodded. "Put it through to my private channel." The holographic image of Admiral Frank Carter appeared next to Morrison's chair. Carter commanded all human space forces from his headquarters on Luna. "Jake," Carter's voice was serious, "you know why you're out there. Our colonists on Kepler 442b have been reporting increased alien activity in their system. Both the Vorthans and the hegemony are building up forces for what looks like a major battle." Morrison had read the intelligence reports. Nearly 50,000 human civilians lived on Kepler 442b, farming and mining on the planet's surface. They had established their colony legally, following all galactic protocols. But the two alien empires were treating the system as if humans didn't exist. Our people are in danger, Carter continued. The aliens see them as insects to be swept aside when the shooting starts. Your orders are simple. Protect our colonists at all costs. Understood, sir, Morrison replied. What are our rules of engagement? Defend human lives and property. If the aliens try to harm our people or force them to evacuate, you are authorized to use all necessary force. Carter's expression grew harder. Jake, I won't lie to you. Intelligence suggests both alien fleets consist of hundreds of ships. Your task force is all we can spare right now. Morrison looked at the tactical display showing his 11 escort vessels. The destroyers USS Ranger and USS Falcon flanked his cruiser. Behind them came the fast attack ships USS Viper and USS Defiant. The remaining 7 vessels were a mix of frigates and support craft. By human standards, it was a respectable force. By galactic standards, it was barely worth noticing. We'll get the job done, Admiral, Morrison said firmly. Carter smiled grimly. I know you will. Earth is counting on you, Captain. Show them what humans can do. The transmission ended, leaving Morrison alone with his thoughts. Through the bridge windows, he could see stars stretching into infinity. Somewhere ahead lay the Kepler 442 system, where human colonists went about their daily lives unaware that 2 alien armadas were preparing for war in their backyard. Morrison activated the ship's internal communications. All hands. This is the Captain. We will be dropping out of hyperspace in 6 hours. Prepare for combat operations. Throughout the small human fleet, sailors checked their weapons and ran final diagnostics on their ships. They knew they were outnumbered, but they also knew they were fighting for their own people. That made all the difference. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, with a flash of blue light. 12 ships appeared in formation, their hulls dark against the backdrop of distant stars. Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical displays update as his sensors began mapping the system. Contact, announced Lieutenant Mills from her station. I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. Looks like we have company. Morrison studied the data streaming across his screens. Hundreds of alien ships filled the inner system, divided into 2 distinct groups. The larger vessels were unlike anything in human databases, some stretching over 2 miles in length. Captain Hayes is requesting permission to speak, Mills reported. Put her through. The image of Captain Lisa Hayes appeared on Morrison's command screen. She commanded the destroyer USS Ranger, one of the fleet's most advanced ships. Hayes was 35 years old with short brown hair and sharp green eyes that reflected her intelligence. Jake, my sensors are going crazy, Hayes said. I count over 300 alien vessels in 2 separate fleets. They're positioned around the 4th planet where our colonists are located. Morrison nodded grimly. Any signs they've detected us yet? Unknown. We're still pretty far out, but these aliens have technology we don't fully understand. Before Morrison could respond, his communications officer raised her hand. Sir, incoming transmission from an unknown source. They're using standard galactic frequencies. On screen, the bridge filled with the image of Admiral Zakthul. His purple skin and 4 arms made him look alien and threatening. When he spoke, his voice carried the tone of someone used to being obeyed without question. Unknown vessels, you have entered a restricted military zone. Identify yourselves immediately and state your business. Morrison stood up from his command chair. He had practiced this moment many times, knowing that first contact with hostile aliens would be crucial for humanity's future. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel USS Liberty. We are here to protect human settlements on the 4th planet of this system. Zakthul's 4 eyes widened slightly. Humans? The primitive species from the Outer Rim? You dare to interfere in matters beyond your understanding? We're not interfering, Morrison replied calmly. We're protecting our own people. The alien admiral laughed, a harsh sound that made several human officers wince. Your people are trespassers in a combat zone. Remove them immediately or face the consequences. "That's not going to happen," Morrison said firmly. At that moment, another voice cut into the transmission. Commander Veltar of the Crystalline Hegemony appeared on screen alongside the Vorthan Admiral. His diamond-like body reflected the bridge lights as he spoke. "How amusing," Veltar said, his voice like breaking glass. "The children have brought toys to a real war. Perhaps we should teach them a lesson about galactic power." Morrison felt his crew tense around him. These aliens were treating them like insignificant pests, unworthy of basic respect. He kept his voice steady and professional. "Commander Admiral, we have no quarrel with either of your empires. We simply want to protect our colonists. Surely there's room in this large system for all of us." Zakthul's expression grew angry. "There is no room for weakness in this sector. Your tiny fleet will withdraw immediately, or we will remove you by force." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the human bridge in tense silence. Morrison turned to his tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Rick Davis. "Rick, what's our situation?" Davis was a veteran of the asteroid wars, known for his ability to find weaknesses in enemy formations. He studied his displays carefully before answering. "Both alien fleets are moving to intercept us. The Vorthans are sending what looks like a patrol squadron from their main force. 6 ships, each one about the size of a small space station." "And the Hegemony?" "They're moving too. Looks like they see an opportunity to hit both us and the Vorthans at the same time." Classic three-way engagement. Morrison activated the fleet communications channel. "All ships, this is Liberty Actual. We are about to make contact with hostile forces. Remember your training and follow your orders. We're not just fighting for ourselves today." Throughout the small human fleet, crews prepared for battle. Kyuk. The USS Falcon, Captain Amy Clark ran final checks on her ship's weapons systems. The Falcon was a newer design, built specifically for the kind of fast-moving combat that human tacticians expected in space. "Captain," her weapons officer reported, "all missile tubes loaded and ready. Point defense systems online." Clark nodded. She had studied every piece of intelligence about alien warfare that Earth possessed. The reports suggested that galactic fleets relied on massive ships trading long-range energy blasts until one side's defenses failed. It was a form of combat that favored size and raw power over speed and tactics. Humans had developed something very different. Back on the Liberty, Morrison watched the alien ships approach. The Vorthan patrol squadron moved in a perfect line, their massive hulls gleaming with energy shields. They looked invincible, like floating fortresses that could destroy anything in their path. "Captain," Davis called out, "the lead Vorthan ship is hailing us." On screen, a new alien appeared, younger than Admiral Zakthul but equally arrogant. "I am Sub-Commander Thekval. You will surrender your vessels immediately and prepare to be escorted out of the system." Morrison smiled coldly. "I don't think so." "Then you will be destroyed. My single cruiser outweighs your entire fleet. This is your final warning." The transmission ended. Morrison looked around at his bridge crew. These were good people, trained, professionals who had volunteered to serve humanity among the stars. They deserved better than to be dismissed by aliens who thought size was everything. "All ships," Morrison said over the fleet channel, "weapons free. Let's show them what humans can do." The USS Liberty's engines flared to life, pushing the cruiser forward at a speed that surprised the alien observers. Behind her, 11 other human ships accelerated in perfect formation, their crews ready to prove that in space combat, brains beat brawn every time. The first battle between humans and galactic powers was about to begin. The USS Liberty did not surrender. Instead, Captain Morrison gave the order that would change galactic warfare forever. "All ships, attack pattern Delta. Show them what we learned in the Belt Wars." The human fleet exploded into motion. The 12 ships scattered in directions that made no sense to the alien observers. Instead of forming a battle line like proper warships, they moved like a pack of wolves surrounding prey. Sub-Commander Thekval watched from his massive cruiser as the tiny human vessels darted around his formation. His ship was over a mile long, armed with energy weapons that could destroy a small moon. The human ships looked like insects buzzing around a giant. "Fire all forward batteries," Thekval ordered. "Eliminate these pests." Brilliant beams of energy lanced out from the Vorthon ships. The weapons were designed to destroy other massive cruisers in single shots. But the human ships were no longer where the aliens expected them to be. Captain Lisa Hayes pushed the USS Ranger through a series of turns that would have been impossible for larger vessels. Her destroyer twisted and rolled, using its small size and powerful engines to avoid the energy blast by mere feet. "Target their sensor arrays," Hayes ordered her weapons officer. "Make them fight blind." The Ranger launched a spread of missiles that confused the alien targeting computers. These were not the simple rockets that galactic forces used. Human missiles could think for themselves, adjusting their course and target even after being fired. 3 explosions bloomed along the side of the lead Vorthon cruiser as the missiles found weak spots in its armor. The alien ship shuddered but kept fighting. "Impossible," Thekval muttered as damage reports flooded his command center. How did such small weapons penetrate our shields? He was about to learn that humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of destroying things much larger than themselves. Captain Rick Davis brought the USS Falcon in from a different angle, his ship moving so fast that alien sensors could barely track it. Davis had studied every battle report from Earth's history, from ancient naval warfare to modern space combat in the asteroid fields. "Launch kinetic penetrators," Davis ordered. The Falcon fired weapons that the aliens had never seen before. Instead of energy beams, the human ship hurled solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The kinetic rounds punched through alien armor like bullets through paper. "What kind of primitive weapons are these?" Thekval demanded as his ship shook under the impacts. His tactical officer looked confused. "Sir, they appear to be using solid projectiles. Our shields are designed to deflect energy weapons, not physical impacts." Meanwhile, Captain Morrison coordinated the attack from the Liberty's bridge. He watched his ships move in patterns that seemed random but followed principles learned from Earth's greatest military minds. "Amy, take your group and hit their engines," Morrison ordered over the communication channel. "Pete, you and the frigates target their weapon systems." Lieutenant Commander Amy Clark had been waiting for this moment. She commanded a group of fast attack ships that were designed for exactly this kind of combat. Her vessels were small and quick, armed with weapons that could strike and run before the enemy could respond. "Roger that, Captain. Beginning attack run." Clark's ships dove toward the alien formation like hawks attacking prey. They fired electromagnetic pulse weapons that disrupted alien electronics, causing systems to fail throughout the Vorthon squadron. Captain Pete Johnson brought his ship, the USS Defiant, alongside 2 other frigates. Johnson was known for his creativity in combat, often using equipment in ways that surprised even his own crew. "Target their communication arrays," Johnson ordered. "If they can't talk to each other, they can't coordinate their attacks." The Defiant launched a barrage of missiles equipped with jamming devices. When they exploded near the alien ships, they filled space with electronic noise that blocked communications between the Vorthon vessels. Thekval found himself cut off from his other ships, unable to coordinate their defense. His massive cruiser was being attacked from all sides by enemies too small and fast to hit effectively. "All ships, focus fire on the largest human vessel," he ordered, hoping his remaining ships could still hear him. The Vorthon squadron turned their weapons toward the USS Liberty. Morrison saw the energy build up on his sensors and knew what was coming. "Evasive maneuvers," he ordered his helmsman. "Don't let them get a clean shot." The Liberty twisted through space like a dancer, using thrust from engines placed all around its hull. The alien energy beams missed by hundreds of yards as the human cruiser performed maneuvers that seemed to defy physics. But Morrison was not just trying to survive. He was leading his enemy into a trap. "Now," he said quietly into his communication system. The other human ships had been moving into position while the aliens focused on the Liberty. Suddenly they attacked from 6 different directions at once, concentrating their fire on the most damaged Vorthon cruiser. The alien ship's armor finally gave way under the combined assault. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as internal systems overloaded. The mighty Vorthon cruiser, which had seemed invincible just minutes before, broke apart in a brilliant flash of light. Thekval stared in shock at the destruction of one of his most powerful ships. These humans had done something that should have been impossible. Their tiny fleet had destroyed a vessel that outweighed them by hundreds of times. "Retreat," he ordered his remaining ships. "Fall back to the main fleet." But the humans were not finished. As the Vorthon ships tried to withdraw, the human vessels pursued them like wolves chasing wounded prey. They struck at engines and weapon systems, crippling 2 more alien ships before the survivors could escape. Morrison watched the damaged Vorthon vessels limp away toward their main fleet. His own ships had taken some damage, but all 12 were still operational. They had won their first battle against galactic forces. "Captain," Lieutenant Mills reported, "we're receiving transmissions from both alien fleets. They sound very upset." Morrison smiled grimly. The aliens had learned their first lesson about human warfare. Size and power meant nothing without the skill to use them effectively. "Signal the fleet," Morrison ordered. "Form up on the Liberty." This was just the beginning. The human ships regrouped, their crews working to repair damage and reload weapons. They had proven themselves in combat, but Morrison knew the real test was yet to come. The alien empires would not underestimate them again. News of the human victory spread through both alien fleets like wildfire. Admiral Zakthul stood in his command center aboard the massive dreadnought Eternal Might, staring at the tactical displays in disbelief. The reports from Subcommander Thekval seemed impossible. "They destroyed the Crushing Fist with ships no larger than our shuttles." Thekval's voice crackled over the communication system. "Admiral, these humans fight unlike anything we have ever encountered." Zakthul's forearms clenched into fists. The Crushing Fist had been one of his finest cruisers, armed with enough firepower to level a city. Now it was debris floating in space, destroyed by primitives who should not have been able to scratch its paint. Across the system, Commander Veltar received similar reports from his own scouts. The crystalline being's body flickered with angry red light as he processed the information. "Impossible," Veltar muttered to his officers. 12 tiny ships cannot defeat a proper battle squadron. There must be some mistake. But the sensor readings were clear. The human fleet had not only survived contact with superior forces, they had won decisively. Both alien commanders realized they were facing something they did not understand. "Open a channel to the Vorthon fleet," Veltar ordered. "It appears we have a common problem." Within minutes, the images of both alien leaders appeared on each other's command screens. Despite being enemies for decades, they both recognized the threat that the humans represented. "Commander Veltar," Zakthul said formally, "I propose a temporary alliance. These humans must be eliminated before they can interfere further in our conflict." Veltar's crystalline features reflected the light from his bridge displays. "Agreed, Admiral. My scouts report that the human fleet has taken position near the 4th planet. They appear to be protecting the settlements there." "Then we will crush them together," Zakthul declared. "I am committing 200 ships to this operation. Combined with your forces, we will have over 300 vessels against their 12. Veltar nodded. "The mathematics are simple. Even if these humans possess unusual tactics, they cannot overcome such overwhelming numbers." But Captain Morrison was not thinking about mathematics as he studied the tactical situation from the bridge of the USS Liberty. He was thinking about history, specifically about every time in Earth's past when a small force had defeated a much larger enemy. "Captain," Lieutenant Mills reported, "long-range sensors show both alien fleets moving toward our position. Estimated time to contact is 6 hours." Morrison looked at the numbers on his screen. Over 300 enemy ships against his 12. In any conventional battle, it would be a massacre. But Morrison had no intention of fighting a conventional battle. "Signal all ships," Morrison ordered. "Captains to report to the Liberty for emergency conference." Within an hour, the holographic images of all his ship commanders appeared around Morrison's conference table. These were the best officers that Earth had to offer, veterans of dozens of battles in the outer system. Captain Lisa Hayes spoke first. "Jake, the sensor readings are clear. They're bringing everything they have. This isn't a patrol squadron we're facing anymore." Captain Rick Davis nodded grimly. My tactical computer estimates will be outnumbered 30 to 1 when they arrive. Even with our advantages, those are impossible odds. Morrison studied the faces of his officers. He saw concern, but not fear. These were people who understood that sometimes impossible odds were just another tactical problem to solve. "What do we know about how these aliens fight?" Morrison asked. Captain Amy Clark, who had spent months studying alien tactics, answered immediately. They rely on massive formations and overwhelming firepower. Their ships move in rigid patterns, probably controlled by battle computers. They expect enemies to meet them head-on in a test of strength. "Then we won't give them what they expect," Morrison said. "Julie, what did your reconnaissance flights discover about their fleet composition?" Captain Julie Parker commanded the fast attack craft USS Viper. Her ship was the smallest in the fleet, but also the fastest and hardest to detect. "Both fleets use the same basic doctrine," Parker reported. Large command ships in the center, surrounded by rings of smaller vessels. They keep their formation tight to concentrate firepower. But that also makes them predictable. Morrison smiled for the first time since the aliens had issued their ultimatum. "Predictable is good. Predictable means we can plan for it." He activated the holographic display, showing the approaching alien formation. "Gentlemen, ladies, we're not going to fight 300 ships. We're going to fight their commanders." Captain Steve Adams, who commanded one of the frigates, leaned forward. "Explain." "These aliens think like prey animals," Morrison said. "They bunch together for protection and rely on their leaders to tell them what to do. But humans evolved as pack hunters. We know how to separate prey from the herd." The conference lasted for 2 more hours as Morrison outlined his plan. It was dangerous, requiring split-second timing and perfect coordination, but it played to every advantage that humans possessed. When the meeting ended, the ship commanders returned to their vessels with new orders. Throughout the small human fleet, crews began preparing for the most important battle in their species' history. Captain Pete Johnson gathered his engineering team aboard the USS Defiant. "I need every trick you know," he told them. "We're going to turn this mining ship into something the aliens have never seen before." The Defiant had originally been designed for asteroid mining, but Johnson's crew had been modifying it throughout their journey. Now they worked feverishly to complete their preparations. Meanwhile, Captain Davis coordinated with the other ship commanders to perfect their timing. The plan would only work if every vessel performed its role exactly as planned. "Remember," Davis transmitted to the fleet, "we're not trying to destroy their entire force, we just need to cut off the head of the snake." As the alien armada approached, human crews worked around the clock. They had no shifts, no rest periods. Every person on every ship understood that failure meant not just their own deaths, but the end of human expansion into space. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the enemy fleet grow larger on his displays. In a few hours, he would discover whether human tactics could overcome impossible odds, or whether humanity's first major battle among the stars would also be their last. The hunters were about to face the largest prey they had ever stalked. The combined alien fleet approached like a moving mountain of metal and energy. Over 300 ships stretched across space in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with weapons and shields. At the center, Admiral Zach Thul's flagship Eternal, Might and Commander Veltar's vessel Crystal Throne moved side by side, their commanders confident of easy victory. Captain Morrison watched from the bridge of the USS Liberty as the enemy armada grew larger on his screens. His 12 ships looked tiny against such overwhelming force, like minnows facing a school of sharks. "All ships report ready, Captain," Lieutenant Mills announced from her station. Morrison nodded. "Execute Plan Wolfpack. All ships, begin the hunt." The human fleet scattered in 12 different directions, moving so fast that alien sensors could barely track them. To the alien commanders, it looked like the humans were running away in panic. "They flee like cowards," Zach Thul declared with satisfaction. "All ships pursue and destroy." But Captain Morrison was not fleeing. He was leading the entire alien fleet into the largest trap in galactic history. The USS Liberty streaked toward the alien formation at maximum speed. drawing fire from dozens of enemy ships. Energy beams filled space around the human cruiser as Morrison's helmsman performed impossible maneuvers to avoid destruction. "Sir, we're taking hits to the forward shields," reported the damage control officer. "Hold course," Morrison ordered, calmly. "We need to get their attention." Behind him, the other human ships moved into position. Captain Lisa Hayes brought the USS Ranger around the far side of the alien formation, using the bulk of their own ships to hide her approach. Captain Rick Davis led 3 frigates in a wide circle, staying just out of sensor range. The aliens took the bait completely. Both fleets converged on the Liberty, trying to destroy the human flagship with concentrated firepower. They never noticed the other 11 human ships moving like wolves through the darkness. "Now," Morrison whispered into his communication system. "Captain, Julie Parker's USS Viper emerged from behind an asteroid, moving faster than anything the aliens had ever seen. Her small ship darted between the massive alien vessels, firing electromagnetic pulse weapons that disrupted their electronics. Target their command frequencies," Parker ordered her crew. "Cut their communications." The Viper's weapons created chaos throughout the alien formation. Ships lost contact with their commanders, their battle computers crashed, and their tight formations began to drift apart. At the same moment, Captain Pete Johnson revealed what his crew had done to the USS Defiant. The former mining ship launched a spread of modified mining charges that had been converted into space mines. The explosives drifted silently toward the alien command ships. "What are those objects?" Veltar demanded from his flagship. His tactical officer studied the sensor readings. "Unknown, Commander. They appear to be some kind of debris." The mines exploded simultaneously around both command ships, not to destroy them, but to blind their sensors with electromagnetic interference. Suddenly, the commanders of both fleets were flying blind. Captain Amy Clark chose that moment to strike. Her attack group had been waiting in the shadow of Kepler 442's largest moon, engines cold and silent. Now they ignited their drives and charged directly at the alien command vessels. "All weapons fire at will," Clark ordered. Human missiles and kinetic weapons slammed into both flagships. The aliens had been so focused on chasing the Liberty that they had left their most important ships vulnerable. Zachthel felt his massive dreadnought shudder under the impacts. "Impossible," he muttered as damage reports flooded his command center. How did they get so close? The answer was simple. While the aliens had been thinking like prey animals bunching together for protection, the humans had been thinking like the predators they were. They had separated the leaders from the herd. Captain Morrison brought the Liberty around in a sharp turn that would have torn apart a larger ship. Now he was behind the alien formation, attacking their unprotected rear. "Target their engine clusters," Morrison ordered. "Disable their ability to maneuver." The Liberty's weapons found their marks, crippling several alien ships and creating more chaos in their ranks. Without communications and with their commanders under attack, the alien fleet began to fall apart. Captain Steve Adams led the final phase of the attack. His frigate and 2 escort ships had been waiting for this moment, armed with weapons that the aliens had never imagined. "Deploy the net," Adams ordered. His ships launched a web of metal cables and electromagnetic fields that wrapped around several alien vessels like a giant fishing net. The trapped ships crashed into each other, their formation completely destroyed. Within 30 minutes, the battle was over. Both alien command ships were crippled and drifting. Dozens of other vessels were damaged or disabled. The mighty fleet that had seemed invincible was now scattered and helpless. Morrison opened a communication channel to both alien commanders. "Admiral Zachthul, Commander Veltar, this is Captain Morrison. Do you wish to discuss terms?" The response came slowly, filled with shock and disbelief. Zachthul's image appeared on Morrison's screen, his purple skin pale with defeat. "How?" the alien admiral asked simply. "We fought as humans," Morrison replied. "We used our strengths against your weaknesses." Commander Veltar's crystalline form flickered with confused colors. "Your ships are so small. Your fleet is nothing compared to ours." Morrison smiled grimly. "Size isn't everything, Commander. Will and skill matter more than raw power. Over the next several hours, Captain Laura White handled the negotiations as Morrison's diplomatic officer. The terms were simple. Both alien empires would recognize human territorial claims in the Kepler 442 system. They would not interfere with human colonies or shipping. Most importantly, they would report to their governments that humanity was not to be underestimated. As the damaged alien fleets limped away from the battlefield, Morrison composed his report to Earth Command. The engagement had lasted less than 6 hours, but it had changed everything. Mission accomplished, Morrison wrote. Human colonies secure, alien threat neutralized. Recommend immediate establishment of permanent naval base in this system. Theo, 12 ships of the human fleet took up orbit around Kepler 442b, where 50,000 colonists went about their daily lives, most unaware of the battle that had been fought for their protection. On distant worlds throughout the galaxy, alien leaders received reports that forced them to reconsider their assumptions about the small species from Earth. The humans had announced their arrival among the stars not with diplomacy or trade, but with the most ancient and respected currency in the universe: victory in battle. The tiny fleet that everyone had scoffed at had proven that in space, as on Earth, the size of the fight in the warrior mattered more than the size of the warrior in the fight. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, looking out at the stars that now belonged as much to humanity as to any other species. The hunt was over, and the pack had won.